or good afternoon. Um, we will start the session now, so please take your seats. Welcome to the last session of this conference, Listen to the Editors. Yesterday, one of the speakers, Dr. Jos Ruland, for this session asked if there would be people attending this particular session. He was wondering who thought of a session with editors. Well, since there are 4 distinguished editors invited as guest speakers in this conference, the organizing committee, particularly Dr. Jassim Al-Suwaidi, thought it would be a great idea to get them together to advise aspiring authors in this part of the world on how to write a manuscript successfully. Another member, Dr. Awad Katani, thought such a session would be a great idea to end the conference and threw me in as a moderator. And so here we are. This session is not going to be a scientific session. It's a creative session, so all you do is sit back and relax and listen to our distinguished editors give you tips and advices on how to write a manuscript. Our guests will speak about 10 minutes each, and there will be a discussion at the end of the session. Of course, writing a manuscript is difficult, but it's also rewarding. Our guests will advise us on how to do this to get your manuscript published. By now, you already know our guests. However, it's a pleasure and a great honor for me to introduce our first speaker, Dr. William Roberts. If you remember, he was our keynote speaker of this conference, giving us fascinating information on the advantages and beneficial cardiovascular effects of a vegetarian diet. He is editor-in-chief of the American Journal of Cardiology since 1982. That's about 28 years. You know, he's executive director of Baylor Heart and Vascular Institute in Dallas, Texas. He has published over 1,400 articles and authored or edited 24 books. In this session, he will advise you, the would-be authors, on the fine points of writing a manuscript for publication. Dr. Roberts.
Dr. Hajar, thank you for those kind words and for the invitation to participate in this meeting. I have no slides for this. Writing the manuscript for publication, I'm going to talk more from the standpoint of an author here than from the standpoint of an editor. The first requirement, of course, is to have something to say. Does what one intends to say, does it add to the present knowledge base, or does it simply confirm a previous observation, or does it describe it better than it's been described before? When I prepare a manuscript, the first thing I do is work on the tables and the figures. And I try to get them completely completed before a single word is written in the manuscript. And I have found that if the tables are properly done and the figures are complete, that the writing of the manuscript is fairly straightforward. After preparing the tables, and I work hard on the tables and figures, a good figure giving the message of the manuscript is something quite beautiful in my opinion. And when I read manuscripts, I read the title and I read the abstract, and then I go to the tables and then the figures. The second thing, after getting the tables and figures together, I try to write the title of the manuscript. And the title, in my opinion, obviously should describe the contents of the manuscript. And every time I work on that manuscript and go over drafts, I work first on the title. So if the manuscript goes through 5 or 10 different drafts, each time I have worked on the title, and I think it's proper by the time the manuscript is finished. Now, in reading manuscripts, I get the idea often that, well, we need a title for this manuscript, and the title is sort of casually developed. And there are a lot of good manuscripts that are lost because the title is really not descriptive of the contents. The next thing after writing the title is I try to write the abstract. And the abstract, in my view, gives the main points of the paper, and it provides an outline and crystallizes, at least in my mind, the various points that I want to make in that manuscript. The introduction, I try to keep relatively short, a single paragraph. I think the introduction should get to the point of the reason for the manuscript and get there quickly. What is the purpose of the report? What's been done on this particular project before? In other words, a justification for the manuscript. Now, the key to any manuscript, in my view, are the methods and the results. Some editors put the methods and results in small font, small print, and the introductions in larger print and the discussions in larger print. I think that is not proper. If any part of the manuscript should be in larger print, in my view, it should be the methods and results, because that's the essence of any paper. What was done, how it was done, and these were the findings. The discussion, I like to, well, the first paragraph of a paper that I do anyway, in the discussion portion, is simply summarize a bit what were the main findings in this particular study. I think of the discussion as a tree trunk, and each paragraph of the discussion, and I outline the discussion before I write a word of it, each paragraph I think of as a branch of this tree trunk. And I think it's very important to not try to talk about everything that came up in the manuscript, but pick a few items to discuss in the discussion and go all the way out on each branch. In other words, the idea which is picked to discuss it fully, develop that concept well. References are important. They are a clue to a scholarship. I can look at the references in most manuscripts and know whether these are pros or whether these are amateurs who wrote that manuscript. One should study very hard and diligently, in my view, the journal to which your manuscript is going to be sent. And if the editor of that particular journal requires the names of all authors, make sure you don't stop with et al. If that journal requires inclusive pages, make sure you've got inclusive pages. Be a pro. Study the journal well that you plan to submit that manuscript. And if you submit a manuscript to one journal and it's turned down, don't send it immediately to another journal. That is an insult to the review process. Take that manuscript, revise it, listen to the reviewers, and then in your revised manuscript, prepare it for the new journal, not the first one it was sent to. Give credit to those who came before. One thing about any manuscript, one has to cover the flanks, so to speak, because reviewers try to, in my opinion anyway, look for holes in the manuscript. That game tit-tat-toe, where you have 9 holes that you put an X or a 0 in. I think all of those blocks need to be filled in so you cover this yourself for reviewers. I think authors need to think, well, what weaknesses are in this manuscript? How can I combat the reviewers before the manuscript is ever sent in? Thank you.